Okay. And you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so welcome to our 62nd edition of BC Open Discussion. And as requested by Sandeep sir last time, I listed down some of the topics in the slide deck, but in the invite, but I changed some of them. So sorry for that, because some were we already covered, and I didn't pay attention to those. But we'll be talking about what's changed on the template. There are some quick ones which I just wanted to go over so that we can move forward, and about what's more interesting and what's more into development one. So we'll talk about one thing about from the development perspective, and one thing from the administration perspective, and others are from the application changes in Business Central 19. So let's move to what's we do every time. If you're new in this meeting and don't want to register every week, then you can drop your name and email in the chat, and I'll make sure that you get invited every time. If you want to register every week, that's also okay. Then you might need to visit this page every week, and these links get updated with the next invite, normally tomorrow or after this meeting. So what happened this week? So this week, the launch event was launched, and this time it's a little bit different. There's not a portal where you can go and watch, but there's a page, which is this page, AKMSBCLE. And using this page, you can register, and then you'll get an email like this, which will list down all the sessions from Microsoft. And remember that these videos will be only available by end of this year. So go ahead and watch those. They're pretty good. I've seen most of them. So because there are certain situations that you might not be able to kind of test on your local machine, because either your organization is not using those features and all. So it's a good place to kind of go ahead and understand how things are changing in Business Central. So yeah, it's a good style from Microsoft, I guess, to kind of summarizing what's changed in the product. It gives a deep dive overview of every change that had been done. So if you haven't, go ahead and click or visit this link, AKMS/BCLE, and you'll get an email like this where you can watch these sessions later based on your comfort, time and all. Okay, so let's move to what's new. That we'll just cover quickly. And I'll also kind of try to open the links from the Microsoft website for those. Use new template with the same flexibility as configuration template. Now, in summary, and let me find the tab where I've opened them. Okay, here it is. In summary, what Microsoft have done is added two new functionality into customer, vendor, item, and employee templates, which seems pretty interesting. Now template supports more or less all the fields which are available on these master. So it's not just limited to what fields are available on the template table. It kind of is a true copy of the main table. And the other good thing is that you can actually create, you can ask users to create record based on different type of customers or vendors that they have, and then save them as template. So those are the two major changes into the template functionality. One, that it exposes all the field, and you can add all the fields using personalization option in the page. At the end, Microsoft also talks about that there's a documentation that explains that if you have an extension on top of base Microsoft, then how you can extend the new template, and what would be the sample code to show how to keep the master data and template synchronized. So that all has been done in this release, from the perspective of changes in the master template. So let's go ahead and let me see if I can here. Sandbox. Okay. Works. Okay. This seems to be working. So as I was saying, the other cool thing which I liked, like you don't have to spend time with your users to explain them how they should define their templates and things like that. You can just tell them to create new customers or vendors or the master records. So like I'm a new user and I'm just started using Business Central and I want to define, let's say, 5 different customer templates. So I can define whatever my common fields will be on the template. Like I can say that all my customer will be, let's say, India based of this type. And then they'll have the posting group, which is normally you set on every template. But let's come down and see here. Let's say I want them to have payment term code of, let's say, 2 days or any other field that you want. Once you are done with that, and they have created, let's say, 5 different type of customers that they have, then you can actually go and it's always hard to find where those are, but you can actually save them as template. Where is that option? I'm super bad with these menus for some reasons, I guess. Okay, yeah, so there's the template, apply template, and also save as template. So now once they have defined that, okay, this will be my one specific type of customers that I'll create, they can always come and save those as templates. Let's say these are my high-end customers template. Now all the fields that we have selected with the values will be shown here, like 2 days on payment term code. And this now customer has been saved as a template. And same applies for vendor and all. So while you create new customer, you will get that template, and that can be selected, and all the fields which are on the template will get populated as it is. So those were the two things that I was able to read. As in, yeah, we can also see the customer template page. Now, if you try to edit this, and let's go into personalize, you'll see all the fields are now available here. And based on my comparison, I think that they have added all W1 field, and that may be my wrong analysis, but it seems all common field to all regions are being added into the template tables. So you can drag them here, or you can, as Microsoft says, that there is a documentation which can also walk you through about how you need to apply or modify these templates if you want to extend these for extensions that are being deployed. That's all about on the templates. Now, I'm not a great finance guy. I don't know much about finance, but on the account schedules, Microsoft have added a new field which is called as budget name, which can be used for filtering that's being added on account schedule. Now you can read details about it. They also have added some more account schedules in the system, and that this new field is available called budget name. And as per the documentation, you can define different budget names and then compare them to the previous period and all. So let's quickly see that. As I said, I don't know much, and anybody who knows it can talk here at this time.
You can go to account schedules.
So how this field
From the
will
process
help?
So what it can do is basically edit column layout.
Sorry.
So what now you can do is you can compare it with actuals. So one column can show budgets,
Okay.
another can show actuals. There's column number 4, ledger entry type, where you can select
Okay.
budget entries,
Oh, okay. Budget
and then the
entries, and
budget
then
detail.
they will be tied to the budget. Okay, that makes sense. Sounds good. Oh, and then you can define dimensions here, and you can also block them. Being posted transaction, for example, customer that is declared insolvent on the item that is placed in quarantine. Okay, so that's just an enhancement here. And as I was reading that there were other new templates, sorry, account schedules have been added. Microsoft suggests that you can create your own based on looking at these, but don't, they don't suggest to use them as it is. I guess that's what was written over there when I was reading it. Uh,
They are automatically created by certain actions. So
right,
Microsoft recommends that leave them alone, copy them. There is a button available there, and
right.
modify it according to your requirement, but don't touch the standard.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's this copy account schedule. Okay, it was on that. And on the next one, I would like to spend some time, which is add additional column to through personalization into various pages. And that seems pretty simple. But based on my analysis, what I did, I guess we are doing a disservice on this part, and I'll walk you through about it. So Microsoft added so many fields, but they are not visible by default. They are added into the page design. So now customers can go into personalization mode or into the design mode, which I never prefer customer goes, but they can add those fields into pages. And when 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 you read this, you'll see that there are so many fields added on so many pages. Now I actually want to spend some time for a reason, and let me open my VS Code and show you this. Okay, so let's say this is, and let me just first go ahead and delete these symbols for a minute and map it to my 184. Okay, now let's suppose this is the customer whom I implemented in Business Central 18. Now while I was doing that, I created a page extension like this. I just want to understand, anybody sees a problem while I was writing what I have written over here? Is it anything that is incorrect if a customer requested a field on sales order subform, which is a base Microsoft field called gross weight? Is it the right way to add it? Or do you see any problem in this code?
Now, when you're saying it's definitely a problem.
Anyone can think of what would be the problem if I build this app, and here's the app created, just this app. Now this is the app which my customer is using. They are on Business Central SaaS. They were implemented when Business Central 18 was launched. So what would be the problem for a SaaS customer, or should I say irrespective of SaaS customers, for any customer who is using a, you know, a, which whose extension contain a page extension like this?
The only problem I can foresee is that if Microsoft adds this field, this extension will give error.
That makes sense, and that's what Microsoft have done, right? This is an example of one of the field that is added into sales purchase archive documents, which is gross weight. And I just, this was working fine in Business Central 18, no compile time warning, everything looks good. But when I try to publish this on my BC 190 sandbox, as Yusuf said, it will end up with an error message that a member of type field with name gross weight is already defined in the sales order subform by extension based application by Microsoft. Now, there are, as in someday maybe we need to start reading about the best practices while we extend our customer environments for their requirements. There's one simple thing that is also written there, and this is why I want to talk about it, because I have seen that some of us in our company have done this mistake, and that's pretty obvious as we are moving into this space. When you add a field on a page extension, there are two things that are required, which is one is the name and one is the source expression for that field. Now, people who are from NAV, they will kind of understand it like, let me open NAV if I can, is adding a field on a page. There is this something called as name, and then there's something called as caption. Now, I'm pretty sure in NAV Word, you have seen that a customer wanted, let's say, a currency code field on the customer card in the general tab also, and also on the invoicing tab where it is already there. What will happen if I try to copy this field and let's say place it at the end in NAV Word? This will give me an error. That's what happening when Microsoft, based on the feedback that they are receiving from the community, is trying to expose some fields. The field is already added by Microsoft, and Microsoft based app always take priority on any other pertinent extensions. So while adding fields on the page, coming back to this, we need two parameters. One is the name and another is the expression. The unique identifier of a field, either in NAV Word or in Business Central Word, is the name. It's not the expression, because expression will remain same if I'm trying to add the same field. So what I should be doing in those cases when I'm writing pertinent extension is prefixing this name with whatever the prefix that I use for my organization. And just randomly here, let's say I have registered this prefix, and this is very important, with Microsoft. As an organization, if you're not aware about it, you need to send an email to Microsoft. You can read it on Microsoft Docs and register your 3-word prefix suffix from Microsoft, which will be only used by you. And if you don't do it and somebody else registers the same prefix, then in a situation where there is a conflict, you'll have to kind of register a new prefix and rewrite your or change the names of your fields and table extensions. Table extension fields and new objects with that prefix. So if you haven't registered the prefix or suffix, go ahead, read Microsoft documentation, find the email ID, send them an email, and they'll give you a prefix or suffix. And if you're already using it, I know for a fact that some people don't use it on while building a page extension or while adding a field into a report extension. Start using it on the name parameter, because if this would have been the name of this extension, of this field, and if I would have built it like this, it will get published into my BC19 without any errors. Oh, there's already an app with the same name. So if I publish it from here on my Business Central 19, it'll get published without any error. So if I change it to Sandbox, and for that, I'll have to, where is my, let me remove this. Okay, we download the symbols, which is, I'm trying to build this, I guess. Okay, the package is empty, so let me download the symbols. So as soon as I download the symbol, this extension right now will get compiled, but if I change it back to gross weight, it'll give me a warning here. Now, why I'm giving you this example, and this is okay for an extension that you are building for the customer who is new customer on Business Central 19. But for your older extension that you have built for your customer, make sure that you are using this, and also going forward you're using this, so that it doesn't overlap with the Microsoft field. And because you are using it as in your extension, for sure you are going to make it visible true. And Microsoft field by default of gross weight will be set to visible false in sales order subform page. They have added that field, but they haven't exposed that field. So the visible is set to false. Any user can go into personalization and add it. So this will kind of solve your build issues when Microsoft, based on the feedback, start adding fields which you might have already added. So prefixing, If you are not using it, I know that some of the partners don't know about this still, and some of them are using their own thought of prefix. Read the documentation, get this registered, and start using your prefix suffix. Yeah, this is super important because this prefix suffix also need to be part of your new objects, and the name of the object is the primary key more or less, and we have talked about it in the past, not the number. So changing object name is not that simple as it used to be in NAV. Any questions on that? Okay. Let's quickly move to the next one, which is chart of account overview page. They have changed, not changed, but enhanced more or less the chart of account page, added more fields which look alike the chart of account page. The overview page also looks like chart of account page, which gives user a more flexibility, because earlier the overview page was not that similar to chart of account. So if you read the detail, that's what they say about it. That the chart of account page displayed the same way like GL account, a hierarchical list of your accounts. And also they have added the fields which are needed from the users in the overview page also. So they can now use the chart of account overview or chart of accounts, as they prefer. Both look kind of similar at this point. So this is the new enhanced chart of account overview page, which looks a lot similar than your chart of account, similar to your chart of account page. Okay, what else was there? Edit in Excel in recurring journal and intercompany journal. It's it's predefined as it's self-explanatory that they have added in these two pages. They have added capability of editing in Excel as it was available in the journal and other journals. So if you are on Business Central SaaS and use recurring and intercompany journal, then both of them has now capability to do a bulk edit using the edit in Excel feature. Enable or disable item references from inventory setup. So I don't know how many of your customers are using item reference, or have you noticed this or not, but for few releases, Microsoft was working on enhancing the item reference feature in Business Central. So going forward, there are no cross references which used to be in till Business Central 18. They'll just be called as item references, just as simple as that. The data, if your customer is using it, will be taken care by the Microsoft upgrade routine, and the data will automatically move to item references between that. But if you are not using cross references, then Microsoft, just to clear so many confusion in different pages, have given a set of option that if you're not using it, you can just disable item references, and that will hide all the actions from different pages wherever there's a reference to item reference. So you'll just clear up your item card, vendor card, and customer card. And from the sales and purchase document, in future, if your customer want to use item reference, they can just go and enable this, which will start showing them those actions on different pages. But yeah, don't worry about the data. If your customer was using cross-reference, item cross-reference, the feature has completely, the upgrade is completely ready, and the data will move easily from cross-reference to item references. Okay. Address information. I did see it, I did test it, and maybe with lack of my knowledge, I don't know how this can be utilized, but or why it is needed more or less. But on general ledger setup, Microsoft have added an option to Where is that? Okay. Local register. Yeah. Require country, region, code, and address. Now let's first see what's happening if it is disabled. So if you are on a customer card, and somebody can please explain me, if somebody can explain me, that'll be great. Um, and you have, let's say, a country region country selected, let's say as US, I mean, and let's say the city is selected as New York. So this is how the address is. Now, if you don't enable that feature, which is available on general setup, and you change it to, let's say, South Africa, all the fields, related field gets cleared off, assuming that the because the country and region change, somebody will have to come and reselect the city and zip code info. Now, if you go into your general ledger setup and enable require country, region, code, and address, and let's set it up back to US and set up a city, let's say New York. Okay. Now, if I try to change this to South America, the city and the zip code still remains as it is. Now, the documentation says that typically business uses an external service that is built to validate address in their country or region. When you need to update address info, the structured approach that these services use may not always be what's right for some scenarios. You can set this field on general ledger setup with this field being selected because the address format is related to the selected country region. Changes to the country region code on the address for customer contact and vendor will reset the value into other address field. Can anybody explain me which situation this somebody will activate it in their business central
No,
environment?
only thing I can think of is when, say, for example, you're integrating it with website and the customer is giving address of some other place. So during the integration, you don't want to uh, give errors of syncing of customers.
Yeah, because I thought about it and I think clearing those fields makes more sense. And maybe I'm thinking as a developer, but to me that makes sense to keep those to empty those fields and then let user reselect them when they are changing country or region code. But yeah,
But doesn't
just
make too much sense to me.
right. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how this makes sense.
The only positive thing I'm looking at in this setup is now they have given this country in the city master that was not available in the
Right,
at least
right.
Navision world.
Yeah. So yeah, but just keep in mind that this is a feature. If you see a situation where this happened, make sure to go to your general ledger setup and see what's the value of that boolean that has been selected or not. Okay. Moving ahead, currency exchange rate adjustment. Till Business Central 18, when you do the currency exchange rate adjustment batch that is available, there was no way to kind of filter out which customers or which vendors or which bank accounts will have the app. You want to not select some of the customer, or you want to apply the exchange rate only to few customers or vendors. Now with this release, they have given different options here, filter options on the edges exchange rate batch, and that will allow you or users to filter out which bank accounts they want to see. And I'm pretty sure that you can apply other filters if you need it. Same for customers and vendor, and the batch will respect whatever the filters that you have selected, and only those records which you have selected will be used to update the currency exchange rate. So that filter option is added into this bad job of adjust exchange rates. Okay. Now let's spend some time onto this automation API to create user groups or to create or manage user groups more or less. Uh, Anybody have used automation API till now?
Well, I have.
Okay, that's cool. So let me open my VS Code and let me go back to our HTTP file. So typically all the scenarios that we have done in these meetings in the past was actually on the normal APIs which are being exposed in Business Central. And let me choose Business Central 18 for a while. So this will show you all the APIs which are based on the exclude API extension, which are part of the base Microsoft extension. They give you possibility to add, insert, modify data on different pages. But there is a separate set of APIs which is specifically for administrator, and they have a little bit different URL, which is, let me open both if I can. Let me do a mod so that it doesn't. So if you see, this normal API is API v2.0, whereas for automation API, you have to add this much between API and v2.0. And this gives you certain API pages for administrator to do certain things. So let's see what those are. I'm right now on Business Central 18 environment, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And this list companies as everybody does. It shows you subscriptions for your Business Central tenant, configuration package. If you have to add a new configuration package in your Business Central environment, you don't have to even log into that environment. You can do it with API. If you have to install an extension or uninstall an extension, you can do it from API without logging into environment. Same from user groups, users. If you have to add members to different user group, if you have to assign permission, check the schedule jobs, permission sets, extension upload, and extension deployment status. If there is a big extension that you have started, you can check the status of it. So these are more or less for administrator. They are not to be used for different activities that are related to business. Now on this list, Microsoft have added one more, which is to create user groups. So let me see if I can change it here to Business Central 19, and you can get a request to Business Central 19, and you will see that now there is a way to get the user groups also. So that's possible now with Business Central 19. And as Sandeep said, that if you're not using it, this is super cool. If you have kind of SaaS customers, this makes your life more easier from that perspective. And let's see a small demo of it. So let me see if I have an extension on my Business Central tenant. I might have, because I did submit session. I showed some demos. Okay, this is Business Central 19. Let me filter this out, non-MS. Okay, so there's this app called Recommend Demo, which we created last week. So if I have to see what all apps that I have, and the rule for the API remains same, either they are automation or not automation, they'll always need a company to work with. Even most of the data that we are dealing with automation API is also company independent, but the URL always needs a company. So if you have to get, let's say, a list of extensions that are installed in your environment, get extensions. Okay. You can do in the same way, get base URL, Microsoft Authentication 2.0, Automation 2.0, and then you can add companies as we do. Okay, that's bad. And inside the company, I need the company ID. So I can do a company ID. This is my local variable here. And then I need to get the extension. So I need to check what is for that. The endpoint for that is this extensions. So I can see all the extension based on this request, and I will just do the same authorization here, and let's run this. This will list down all the extension. Now, this is a little bit bigger list, so let me just do a filter on this. Okay, and before doing filter, let me see the field. Okay, so I can do a filter on publisher, and then not equal to, and let's copy Microsoft. So I just want to see extensions which are not Microsoft, and you might apply a different filter based on whatever, maybe your own publisher ID. So this shows me an extension with the name recommended demo and the other extension with the name as read only demo, which we just published today. Now let's assume I would like to uninstall this. Now, especially in this, there are some bounded action. Maybe someday we should talk about it. But what you can do is let's fetch the name of one of these extension. Let's say this my extension in the same way as we did here. And then let's set the ID. Okay, which is the package ID is equals to, let's copy it from here. And this is returning as the second item, right? No, the first item. Recommended app is the first item. Okay, and I want the field package ID. I hope that's how it is named here. Oh, package ID into this from my extension, because this query will return the results into this variable. Okay, so now when I run this one, my package ID will be set here. So now I have the package ID. Now what I can do is I can just call my another API to uninstall this extension. Okay, and that will be done with a post command, which will have a similar URL more or less. So let me copy this. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to post into this companies with the extension, and then I need the extension detail, which is based on the package ID. So what I can do is I can do a package ID here that will kind of filter that extension, and then inside this there are different actions to these forms which are named as, and this is all in documentation, and you can do a uninstall and delete extension data, and then you just need to provide the authorization that you'll do this. So what it will do is it will call the post method for this particular extension, which is coming based on this package ID, which is this, and then we'll call the bounded action on that API page to uninstall and delete the extension data. So logically, what should happen once we run this is this extension, the recommended app should be uninstalled over here. So let's test it out. This did not give a response, which is, let's refresh this. So it turned out to be not installed. And there is no API if you're thinking to unpublish it. There is no API where you can unpublish it, but there are other APIs which are available even to install an extension from the app source, or even install your pertinent extension from using the automation APIs. So if you haven't, Microsoft is adding more and more into automation API. And this would be interesting if if you have customers on SaaS. This will make your life more easier rather than logging in and then doing actions manually. So these were any good example where you have used it, which
Same
make
reason.
life simple? Okay.
So we did it for a German customer partner, in fact. I can't
Okay.
name him, but we did it.
Yeah.
They have their portal where users were basically subscribing, and they used to create each and everything from that website itself.
Okay.
Even DevOps integration, to some extent, if we are using APIs, the agents can use it.
Right. Yeah, so that's cool. Have a look on it. Oh, it might sound, when you read about these or notes, it might sound not important, but automation APIs in general will make your life easier if you have more SaaS customers, more or less.
May I
And
say
there's
something?
go ahead, yeah, why not?
Yeah, since the APIs are really new to Business Central, at least for Indian world, I believe. But I don't know about in the international people who are using it. It would be, if possible, can you do a small demo where you can define various triggers on the code unit APIs and page APIs, that
Okay.
custom, or
Yeah,
even
why
on
not?
the standard one?
Yeah, why not? That makes sense. Yeah, because the example that I was giving right now is this one, the extension, right? And then there are these three bound action on the extension endpoint. One is Microsoft Nav install to install an extension, uninstall, and then also uninstall and delete extension data. So you can use either of those. But yeah, I'll think about it, Sandeep sir, and we'll talk about it maybe next time someday.
And one more question.
Yeah.
Uh, this exclude API, the extension that is available by default,
Mhm.
can we use them in our coding? How do we refer them? How do we download the symbols?
You cannot, because the whole idea of having the name exclude is so that they are not visible on the extension management page, right?
Okay.
And as far as I know, all the API pages which are there in those extensions are marked to be non-extendable. You can always
Yeah,
download the
that,
source code, right?
yeah,
That's
but I
it.
need to publish it separately,
Yeah, you'll
like
have to kind of,
attachment,
right.
attachment on all those small parts. I can't
Yeah,
use them the default one.
yeah, you can't customize more or less the default ones.
That's fine.
So
Matlab, extensible calls is fine, but I can't even use them. So, for example, if in one of my custom API, I want to use dimensions on sales header, I will have to create that dimension subpart page.
I think you can that way. I haven't checked it, but I think you can. Let me test it out, and I think we can. That is it. Let's see, is it extensible? I guess that will define that.
That sensible is fine, uh, but I cannot refer that. I can download the symbols.
You can't
So
download the
that means
symbols.
in the VS Code,
Oh, you can't download the symbols. And let me think about it. It's an extension, so it should have. If you set the dependency on it, still you cannot download the symbols.
I can't define the dependency.
Hmm.
So I am unable to find it in the ID of this, which I should refer in the dependency.
Let me open the. As in, you can always get it from PowerShell for sure, right? So let's try that. And I have it local as a central installed, so I should be uh, Microsoft Business Central 190 service PS1. Okay, and let me get nav app info from my PC 190 and symbols only. Those are symbols only. Oh, it just shows one. That's bad. Okay, this shows everything. Now what I can do is let me do a clear screen here. Run it again. Select everything. Put it into a notepad. Let's do exclude. Here it is. Should we set the dependency of this? Let's give it a try.
Never thought of.
Okay, so let's go back to Visual Studio Code and let's see, is it even possible or not? Where is my app.json? Okay, dependencies. Okay. ID. Okay. Name. Exclude API A2, B2. Publisher. Microsoft. And version is 19.0.0.0. Okay. Okay. Let's try to download the symbols. And I think I have API.
It has one. I can refer it now. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
I never thought of using this.
That's okay. Okay, let's come back to our slide deck. Where is it? Okay, the last one on the quick ones is the, the older reports, and people who are from NED will remember these reports. These were reports from I have seen in NAV 4-ish. I'm pretty sure they were existed before those. They were available for the W1 versions, and so many customers were still using them, I'm hoping. But based on telemetry, Microsoft sees that there are very few customers who are still using them, and they already have these reports which were there in I guess from last 4 or 5 versions of Business Central and Nav. So if your customer is using it, go into report selection, check if they are using any of these report. If they are and they want to stick to those, then you can go to Business Central 18 source code, download these files related to these and move them into 50,000 series and let them continue to use it. If they are okay to shift to these, then you need to update your report selection sales to make sure that these reports are updated before they get upgraded to Business Central 19. These don't have an option to have a world layout. These all have predefined world layout defined. Okay, so now let's come to the last one where I want to spend some time. There's a huge enhancement, and people who have seen Microsoft demos in the past or some other sessions from Microsoft, they're working on this called profiling of AL performance with the snapshot debugging. Now, snapshot debugging, the whole idea of snapshot debugger was to debug Business Central SaaS production environment in case if you have to debug. And we have talked about it in past. If you haven't seen it, the recording is available on YouTube. But it kind of grabs the snapshot of the process that user is running and then let the developer debug it offline without being available into the customer tenant or stopping a production session, because debugger can cause pauses to the sessions. So that's the whole idea behind the snapshot debugger, why they were launched. But it's not just limited to Business Central SaaS. You can still use them in Business Central on-prem if you have to, and you can also use them on Dockers. So what I've done is, just for the demo, I've created a super bad code, which is trying to calculate some random numbers from different ledgers. And every time it calculates, it's not using any best practices. It is doing calcifil. It is sleeping for 5 milliseconds every time on all these ledgers. And then at the end, it shows you a message that this is the total value. Now, this extension is already deployed on my customer environment, and he's facing so many issues whenever he clicks on it based on the performance of this code. Now I actually have to test this, that where is the problem, because I need to see what's causing the slowness. So what I can do is, let's create a new extension. I'll call it as Snapshot. Let's connect it to my Business Central 19 on server, PC 190. Okay, I missed JN. Okay, let me try to download the symbols so that it's connected. Okay, that's being done. So now what we will do, and what happened wrong. Let me
Check the spelling of sandbox.
SA and oh, thanks. Okay, thanks. Now for the snapshot debugging, if you haven't seen the previous recording or session, what you can do is here in the configuration section, you always see this button called add a configuration, which is used for very different purposes. There are so many uses of this. Maybe someday we can talk about it. But right now, what we are going to use it for, initialize a snapshot debugging session on your own server, which is in this case, the Docker environment. It creates a configuration in the similar way as it is here. I'll just copy the name from here to here. Now, there is a new parameter added in Business Central 19 for execution context. Other options were already available there before Business Central 19 existed. I'm getting a background noise. Let me mute people. Okay. Okay. So there are three options in this. One is debug, which we have already seen, which is the default option. Then a debug and a profile, and then it's just a profile. Today we'll just talk about profile, because debug and profile will do the debugging, snapshot debugging, and also create a profile. So you can do either or let's do debug and profile if required. Okay. Now what it does at this point, any new session that will be run after the snapshot debugging is initialized will be considered to grab the snapshot from the server. So how you do that? You search for a snapshot debugging and initialize and snapshot debugging. Keep an eye here. This counter says right now 0. This is your snapshot debug session counter. So I initialize the snapshot debugging. And here you can see message that it's initialized, and you can see it here with 1. As you click on it, it'll show you a GUID of this session. Now, once you have initialized this, and this is either on-prem or Business Central SaaS, you can go ask your user to go back into their environment and log in there. Sandbox. As they log into their environment, tell them to reproduce the issue where they are seeing slowness, which in my case should be here, run bad code. So as soon as they run it, let it complete. And once it is completed, behind the scene, your snapshot debugger should be capturing snapshots while it is executing. Okay, let's see. Have I written pretty bad? So this is the behavior that user is seeing, which is slowness, and I'm not sure is it initialized or not. Because normally once it is initialized, it should show me a message that your session has been initialized, which I didn't see right now. Maybe I was using this. Okay. Okay, as soon as user logs in, we should get a message. Yes, a snapshot debugging session has been started. Start the scenario that is failing or need troubleshooting. User goes in, selects the record or the process that is causing problem, clicks on it, and at this point, your snapshot debugger behind the scene is capturing all what's happening while this code is running. Now, in this version of Business Central, there is a slightly enhanced version of this using the profiler. So once this is done, you can go back into your VS Code and stop your snapshot debugging. Finish snapshot debugging. Keep an eye here. There will be other snapshots that will get created inside the snapshot folder. Okay. Download the zip file which have all the code that has been executed inside this, and this is a JSON that was created for it. That we have seen in the past. But if you want to see the profiler, you can search for generate profile file. Once you click on generate profile file, you need to select your snapshot because there can be multiple snapshots while you are debugging it. And when you click on it, it generates a file like this, which shows you every single line of code or action that's executed as soon as the snapshot debugger started, and also total time that is spent on different functions or methods that has been called. Now, if you see, all these are kind of base functions which are being activated before when the rolltail client gets loaded. But if you come down, we'll reach here where this is my document attachment fact box on my customer card. And then at the end, I see this read only demo, which is the extension name. There's a page extension called super bad code page extension. And it took this much time to execute, total time to execute this. You can also go in here and see what this action was doing. It was calling three functions: calculate customer total, vendor total, and item total. And each of these are taking this much time to execute it. So with Business Central 19, the snapshot debugger is also can be used to check the performance of the code that's maybe running slow, and you can identify it based on the profile that's created once you end your snapshot debugging process. And as I said, that will be listed here and they all will be tagged here as it is. Any questions or thoughts on the snapshot debugger enhancement?
How will database lock impact this profiling? If some other users are doing simultaneously some
Uh,
execution.
right. If so, it doesn't locks the session while you're doing it. While user is running it, it just sorry, I started the snapshot debugger. Sorry. Okay. It just records everything that's being happening. Okay. It doesn't stop the user process if somebody else is posting. That'll continue as it is. It just records when user is running it. It doesn't like a normal debugger. It doesn't stop it. If you see this zip file, and I guess we have seen it in past, it contains all the code execution that has been done at the same time.
My
And
concern is if while I'm executing this, some other user locks the resource and I have to actually wait.
yeah, then it kills itself. There is a time limit at which point the snapshot debugger session automatically kills itself if it crosses that time. And then
And this will capture
eventually,
only at the function level.
yes.
So not the exact line of code.
Not the exact line of code, yeah, because now we also need to understand that this can be based on a code which is not from your extension, right? Now, because this code is not showing me what is happening inside here, it is just showing me the DL file. So if my ISV has a problem somewhere, or any other extension that a customer is using, I should not be able to see their code, but I should be able to identify where the problem is and then reach out to the right party, or uninstall the extension for a while and test the process in the meantime without that extension. And then when I know that, okay, this is the extension which is causing problem, I can reach out to the right party who have developed that extension and tell them the report step to see that your code and specifically this function is taking a very huge amount of time.
Great.
Right. So it keeps the privacy of your code, as in if you don't want to have your code debuggable or visible, it doesn't show that code, but it gives you an idea where the extension is which is causing the problem, and then they, based on this they can also look at that where the problem is. Okay, so that was all for today. Any thoughts, any ideas for next week? I still have things which we haven't talked about. And Jignesh, I see your hand raised.
Yes, so bro, I have a question. So let me know when.
Mm-hmm.
Can I?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Uh, I put a SMTP error that I have faced for NET 2017. So that is a weird thing that I have seen, that setup is correct, password, email ID is correct. I can log in through the browser without any issue. I can send the email also through the browser. Sometime uh, test mail is also sent, functionality send the email within a 2 minutes. It is giving the this kind of error, and after sometimes it is working. So it is weird. Code is same, and that is I'm facing.
And anytime, and others can correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime you work with SMTP in nav or even on Business Central, it's not just your nav code that may cause problem. Remember this. It's also based on what settings you have in your DNS from or the exchange from where the mails are actually being sent, right? So these errors, if you search for it, I'm pretty sure the answers that you'll find will be around your DNS. Like one of the things that was very common in the NAV word is you need to make sure that the user ID that you have selected on your SMTP mail setup to send emails is allowed to send anonymous emails. Because when an application sends it, it's not a user who is sending it, it is sent as a behind the scene mail without a user interaction. So on the DNS or on your Exchange server, there is a setting. I'll have to find if I have that mail where you need to make sure that that user is allowed to send anonymous email. That's for sure, I know. But I'm pretty sure that it is not your NAV code which is causing this problem. It might be something on the exchange that need to be corrected or set correctly.
Okay, but there is a weird thing that I have noticed, that same setup, same code, it is running properly and send the email without
Here it
any
is.
issue. And
Here it
same
is
email,
from
yeah.
the nav guy have the same issue, and he talked about it here that because of the recent changes, because I know this is a recent change that has been done on the TSL changes, uh, the users are the environments are getting these kind of errors, right? And I'm pretty sure he talked about. See, he's talking about it on the registry side. Okay, because recently, if you haven't noticed, and I may be wrong about the dates, but somewhere around within a month or so, Microsoft introduced the TLS security on even on the NAV versions of the product. And due to this new policy, as it article says, one of our client who is currently using unable to send the email because this setting is on the Exchange side or Office 365 side. So every time user try to send an email, they get an error saying something like this. If they try multiple times, the email will somehow get through. Now, I'm pretty sure that there was a platform hotfix for NAV that was released to work with TLS 1.2, NAV also. So do look for that. I'm pretty sure there is an article from Microsoft which talks about Dynamics NAV and TSL.
Okay.
So that might be the thing. If it is happening recently, that might be the thing. And here it is. I guess I found it. Let me see. Okay, here it is from Microsoft. How to get earlier version of Dynamics NAV development environment to work with TLS 1.2. Oh, this is pretty old, 2018. But these are the different version where you need to be on TLS. Cumulative update 18 for 2017 at least. And then, this is setting on your SQL and your servers protocols. So yeah, I'm pretty, as I'm saying, it's not a code related issue, right? But it can be related to a change in the protocol, security protocols that has been done, or maybe a setting on the exchange that need to be set.
It is not a issue. I think it is issue generated, I think 15 days ago. So it is recently. Previously,
Maybe
it is
they
working
applied a
fine.
Windows update on the
Yeah.
servers. Something happened, right? If
Okay.
nothing has been changed on the nav code, then the nav is, or the business central is not always a culprit in a connected environment where there are integration to these different systems. There can be other things that may have changed in the meantime where NAV have no changes at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
welcome. Okay, anything else, anyone? Any thoughts for next week?
Yeah, hi, sir. I was just curious if you received my question regarding the import and export of companies.
I didn't. Which email ID you sent to?
I used the form on the
Oh,
uh,
sorry, I didn't check the form. Sorry, I was a little bit busy. I'll check it today. And if it's urgent, I'll reply on me email if I know that.
it's not urgent. Actually, I just added it on the eve of Thursday, and
Okay,
we kind of fixed it on the morning of Friday. So I just wanted to share the solution with the
go
community.
ahead, go ahead. Why not?
Yeah. So the problem which we were facing while upgrading the database from BC14 to BC18 and then exporting, like that was successfully upgraded. But the customer requirement was that they were already using BC18 on-prem, but using different company. And they
Mm-hmm.
wanted their previous data, which was all on NAV 2009, and they wanted that to be upgraded to BC18, and then they wanted a merger on their new BC18 on-prem environment. So while trying to export and then import the file, which is a .nav data file, the server configuration needs to the server just fails to respond if the database size is about, maybe if it's in GB, because the customer which we were working on, the database size of that nav data file was around 4.5 GB. So the server just fails to respond to that. And the resolution is that to change the server setting. If I can
Let me open the
share.
administration cell. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, here I am. There's a max data upload or something, right? On this somewhere.
Yep. Uh, so yeah, in if you can go into the database settings.
Patch import. Okay, let me see 9046.
Yes. we changed the SQL command timeout. I guess maybe I'm not sure what really fixed that, but we tried a couple of things like changing the SQL command timeout to like 30. I guess that's 30 minutes.
Right.
So initially that's I guess 10 minutes. So we updated it to 30 minutes and then SQL connection timeout. Yes, SQL connection timeout. We also changed the values to 30 and idle timeout. Yeah, that was also 30. So the trick is to just increase the values over there. And in the client service, change the maximum upload size
Right.
to maybe 500,
Right.
I guess.
Like,
That's what
yeah,
is
because
important.
yeah, this one is important for sure because it defines how much, at what time the out of memory errors will start coming up, the max upload size.
Right.
This is majorly, I have changed it only in upgrades, and especially if we are coming from nav 2009 where there is a huge dimension update that runs, right? In those situations there can be a SQL timeout where, because everything happens on the SQL for dimension update, and it doesn't talk to, moreover, till the process is done, it doesn't talk to nav back. And that's where the setting helps if there is something that gets disconnected. But I'm pretty sure the max upload size will surely help in a situation where you are trying to upload a bigger file over there.
Yeah, but what's the
Yeah.
unit of measurement for max upload size? Is it megabytes or gigabytes?
It says here that it's in megabytes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cheers.
The maximum size of the upload or download from the server in MB out of memory errors. Now, interestingly, as in it doesn't relate to this Fazan, but my question is, if somebody was trying to upgrade from whatever version to Business Central, and they wanted, first is
Hmm.
why they wanted to use import export rather than they should have upgraded. That would have saved more time.
Uh, like we tried to upgrade, but then they're already existing the server on BC18. So like they kind of wanted the company to be exported and then imported
Oh,
into the new
okay. They
server.
already existed, and you are trying to upgrade a different company which you wanted to import. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
right, that makes
Another
sense.
possible scenario is that at the time of upgrade, you thought of having a clean data, but as a afterthought, somebody thought ki why to use old version, upgrade it, upgrade the data because we have got a structure so that we can run the same company. From the same instance, we can have old data as
Yep.
well.
Right.
Exactly. So after upgrade, there were two BC instances, BC18 instances. So they wanted to merge it into one. And the only way we thought around was to export the companies and then import it into the uh, live server that they were using it to. And one other thing I want to share with the people is that the schema that needs to be 100% matched between the both servers. That is really important because if it's there's any difference between the schemas, it won't just allow you to import it to the other server.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
kind of a very old prerequisite for this. As even in the NAV word, even if a page was modified after you have taken the backup, it will not let it restore. That's how it was in the
uh,
past. But now it is more simpler because you just need to make sure that the extensions are same,
okay, yeah.
right?
Also, the extension part that was like easy, but I found it kind of strange that the previous database that was, I guess, that contained 7 tables. That was document entry table, that was 235, and there were 7 tables in total which we had to delete. They obviously they didn't contain any data, and that is kind of included as a part of base application in the BC18. But moving back to the 2009 and then using the upgrade toolkit, that is supposed to, I guess, delete it, delete those
Yes,
tables that was not
yes, it's a
doing.
part of documentation.
And it doesn't delete
Uh-huh.
it, but you have to manually delete it. It's written there in the upgrade
Manually
step.
Ah,
deleted.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
the way I try it and the way we do it in our organization is, so let's say you have done a merge of NAV, right? And I prefer it to do it in Business Central 14 because after that it's impossible to do things like.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, right.
you have done a merge on your local machine and you are trying to run the upgrade from, let's say, 3.6 to Business Central 14 and then to Business Central SaaS or on-prem.
Right.
Once you are on Business Central 14, I run
Hmm.
this simple query to update the version of all the tables which are less than 2 million and change it to temp on the customer database. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Once all the versions are temp, then I import again my BC14 merge tables or all objects, irrespective of that. When I
Right.
import my merge objects, they will have the right version, right?
Uh, right.
In
Okay.
BC14. And then anything that is left with temp, that means it was a legacy object which was not supported in Business Central 14. Because you did your merge in a Business Central 14 Cronus environment, so you didn't had any leftover where you did the merge. So then
Yeah.
anything left with temp is legacy and you can easily delete it.
But this document entry table I'm talking about, and there were some other buffer tables. They were part of BC18, so I found them in as a part of the BC18 Cronus tables. But when comparing them to the Business Central 18, they were not present. They were a part of the base application. So obviously, like when using the online web client, we thought that okay, if that's present and then it is trying to merge it, then why is it not finding those tables? But that was quite strange. So if you could share me the link of the blog where they mentioned that to delete these tables, that would be great help.
Which table it is this? What is the idea of that
Uh,
table?
235.
135. Which version you guys were coming from?
We were coming from NAV 2009.
NAV 2009. I'll have to check in 2009. I doubt it existed in 2009 also. 237 you said, right?
That was 235. Let me check.
235.
Hmm.
Okay, I'll have to see. I am pretty sure it didn't existed in.
Table is not there in the 16.
It's not even in Business Central 14.
Is it?
No, I'm talking about NAV 2016.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What is the table ID
Yeah.
again? You said 235. I don't see 235 in the Business
Yeah.
Central 14 one.
It must have been deleted in
In the previous,
9 to
before
16.
you upgraded, yeah. You know, sometimes partners don't do good job of cleaning up tables. And sometimes Microsoft introduced the objects in the same range, and that
So
causes
maybe
overlap.
the table was there in the 9, and it got removed in 16,
Right.
and again now reintroduced.
But 235 is nothing that I found on Business Central 19 again.
No,
So
it's
I
not
don't.
there in the Navision 2016 also.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
checking. Yeah, I'm also checking on the base app of BC19, and I don't see 235. So maybe you are, you know, you maybe the number that you're saying is wrong.
Let me double check because I don't have my
Yeah, check that.
valid.
Otherwise, you know, we can talk about it. That's not a problem.
That'll take just a minute. I have
fine.
made some notes.
Small request to you, Saurabh.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any possibility if we can do a small request how to insert item attributes to program?
Oh, why not? Yeah, I can think of that. Let me write it down.
And
Item at.
Okay, I got it.
Saurabh,
That's 265, the document entry table, and then it's 338 entry summary, and then it's 1670 option lookup buffer, 1754 field content buffer, and 7330 bin content buffer. So these were 1, 2,
Bin
3.
content and that buffer existed for sure in all the versions of nav. So
Yep.
yeah, maybe just drop me all the numbers that you're saying in the chat, and I'll have a look after the meeting. Just see which one.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And Avinav, you were saying something?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, just requesting if we can cover anything related to Power Apps and Power Automate through Business Central. If we can have any small app to be created in Power Apps, and then we can sync up the data from Power Apps through Automate through Business Central. Kind of those kind of stuff, because
Let me see if I get a license somehow. You need a
Okay.
license for Power Apps, right? So if I can
Right.
get a free license somehow for even for some days, we can surely do something on that. But yeah, as I said, everything may be post Diwali at this point. We'll do next
Yes.
week, and then
Sure.
6th I'll be on holiday. Throughout that whole week I'll be out from 1 to 6. But then we'll continue after 13, on 13 and going forward. Okay.
Sure.
That's good. Thank you then. See you next
Thank you,
week.
Saurabh.
Thanks.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Yeah.
Quite
Thanks.
Bye.
interesting.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Thanks.